A very warm welcome and good evening to all of our viewers here in the New York area, around the world, and of course back home in Guyana. Welcome to Globespan 24x7 as we bring you this Monday night program every Monday, God's willing, from 7:30, and we go on hopefully until about 9 o'clock. We want to thank Singh for making this platform available, and of course to Devin, our technical specialist, for broadcasting it around the world. Tonight, and to you, of course, to your viewers, we want to welcome you again to our program. Tonight, as we speak, Guyana is in the trajectory to do very well. As we all know, we are a new oil-producing nation. Our new agriculture minister have a great plan for agriculture. Today, as we look at the news, the Attorney General also met with the Hemp Association to hopefully look at what hemp can do in the process of bringing Guyana out of whatever we are in. Also, as we know, Gaisuco, they have the new CEO, Mr. Singh, is doing a yeoman task, and his responsibility is to turn that industry around. Tonight, as we speak, Gaisuco came into focus, not because of agriculture, but because of what is happening in the state lands. And what I want our audience to understand today, this is a very sensitive issue. And we are not going to take no sides here today. I believe that the government is doing a yeoman service. They're doing a really good service. We want to thank President Irfan Ali for the stand he has taken and for his government. But also on the other side, those who occupy the land that belong to the state, they also have their story. The question is, do we as a people just accept what is illegal, and to what those settlers are doing, it's against the laws of Guyana. If it's against the law, then it must of necessity be illegal. Now, having said that, if we regularize that illegality, if we can term it illegal, what that can do is give others an opportunity to also get into illegal activities, and then they themselves will also want to go into some direction, and hopefully that will also become legal. And that's our dilemma here tonight. But to help us through the program is three new resource persons here on Globespan. I will let them introduce themselves afterwards. But of course, with me is Dr. Euclid Rose, a political scientist and of course a professor here in New York. And he has widely advised governments and institutions around the world. So Dr. Rose, welcome to the program again tonight.
Welcome and thanks a lot, Charles. At this time, I'm going to say a very special welcome to all of Globespan listeners in the diaspora, in Guyana and abroad. So, and I extend a hearty welcome to all our three listeners tonight, Mr. Delgarde, Mike Singh, and Miss Judith de Verteuil.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rose. Thank you. I was going to say that Mr. Mike Singh is no stranger to the Guyanese community. He has done yeoman service to Guyana. He's actually one of the active participants on a social platform that Singh created, which is the Guyana Forum. And also on Globespan 24x7 Forum, he's also on that platform in social media. So his ideas are very revealing. When he gave you his history, and I don't want him to be long in telling us where he came from, I spoke with him today, and his history can take us to the entire program. So, we don't want to do that, Mr. Singh. So we will want you to quickly introduce yourself to us. Before you do that, I also want to welcome Mr. Rory Delgarde. and as Dr. Rose said, Ms. Judith Verteuil. We want to welcome all three of you to the program tonight, and we hope our discussion will bring some sort of healing to our nation and to bring our people together. The understanding is all we want is our people to work together for the common good. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Yes,
so,
good night.
all right, so Mr. Singh, in a short 2 minutes, not too long if you don't mind, tell us your background.
Good night, Professor Sugrim, and to the listeners globally. My name is Mike Singh. I was born in Guyana in humble circumstances. My grandparents were shopkeepers, but deeply religious. My grandfather was a Hindu priest. I grew up next to a mosque and I attended Sunday school. So my grandparents, ensured I had a strong moral upbringing. I grew up in a home without a telephone or without a television. So all I had was my grandfather's amazing library. I read just about anything I could have gotten my hands on. At the age of 10, I was reading the Gettysburg Address.
Wow.
At the age of 8, I read about Toussaint Louverture and Henry
Wow.
Christophe and the rebellion and the Chasseurs Volontaires, the Haitians. Many people don't know Haitians died in Savannah to free the United States. And one of those who went there and went back to Haiti to fight for their freedom was Henry Christophe, who built the famous citadel. So I've always had a strong grasp of social issues and history. I was reading about Gandhi as a teenager. I was ahead of my time. When kids my age were playing marbles and cowboys and Indians, I was interested in reading. So I always had the intellectual edge that took me out to the world and a renewed sense of confidence. But my late father once said to me, the greatest good you can do is not to acquire the wealth of this world, but to lift another human being out of poverty. I grew up in humble circumstances. I was fortunate. I had the acumen, the prowess, and the ability to do better than my peers. So I know what it is to have walked that long, hard road of poverty and social challenges. That's why to this day, I'll be the first to stand up and renounce social injustice, be it against any person, irrespective of race, color, creed, or class. I am a lifelong follower of the humble examples of Mahatma Gandhi, who actually took the teachings of Jesus Christ and put it into practice. So my only politics is bettering humanity.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Singh. Judith, do you want to tell us a little short history about yourself?
Surely, I was born here in Trinidad, and I went through what we will call the local education system, both primary and secondary. And I noticed along the way that there were certain misgivings in the system, but at that time I could do nothing about it. However, in becoming an educator, I assisted with the National Literacy Survey in Trinidad and Tobago, and we recognized that over a quarter of the population at that time in 1994 was functionally illiterate. And so since then, I've tried to set myself towards helping in that regard. And so along the way, we recognized that there was a growing number of street children on the streets of Port of Spain. And so that is why I started the School Pioneer Learning Center as a registered NGO to meet the needs in terms of helping parents educate the children that have fallen through what we will call the formal education system. And also, you will recognize that a lot of children have potential, be it in music, in art, and so on. And so in teaching music, it gives the children an opportunity to find where their talents lie. But of course, when you are doing things and it's not in line with the government and what they want done, sometimes the community you're working with or you could be ostracized. And so it's a known fact in Trinidad and Tobago that some areas of the country have been marginalized to the extent that the United Nations took note of this in 2000, where their education report, Youth at Risk in Trinidad and Tobago, which showed that 10,000 children were missing from our education system. And of course, they could not deny it because our former president, Max Richards, also said that in his speech in 2004 when he visited the school. So the fact of the matter is that across the Caribbean, there's a growing trend of marginalization that has taken place. And I would like to endeavor to do my best along with the support that I've been getting over the years from Mr. Mike Singh, who have been supporting the school for a number of years towards eradicating that, because everything else in the society, all the ills, comes through the delinquency that we experience with young people who become adults themselves. You see, so basically that is what I'm trying to do.
Thank you, Judith. And Rony, in a very short 2 minutes, you want to tell us what you do?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sugrim. It's a great honor.
No, I'm not Dr. Rose. I am Mr.
Mr. But, okay, soon to be doctor.
Okay.
Dr. Rose, it's a great honor to serve in a wonderful and diverse panel, including my best friend, my mentor, and board advisory of Globespan for Charity, and Judith DeVray. It's a wonderful honor to serve with you tonight. My name is Rony Delgarde. I'm the founder and CEO of Globespan for Charity. We are a sustainable paint waste management company. We recycle paint from the United States and ship it to developing countries where we focus on uplifting the economic empowerment and the local communities to beautification.
Thank you, Rony. And before we start tonight's program, we have a little short clip we want to show on what is going on with some of our people. And after that, we will start a discussion. Let's watch this tape.
And I'd like to go. I have 6 children. And I'm a grandmother too with 2 grandchildren. We both all live here. I come and squat here since January. I didn't come and squat just so. I heard about the squatting that is legal with housing. Since like last week, I heard about the flooding. Well, I have children, I have nowhere to go. This is a very dangerous environment. Nobody never come, no authority in position never come and seek for say, well, we can do something about the situation. You understand? But when people need Guyanese support, they come out. When Guyanese need them, they stay in. You can't just come and flood where people living. We're cheering and do things to people like this. He really had.
All right. I know it's kind of emotional, but I think her message was kind of mixed in that she said a couple of things there that we want to talk about tonight. Dr. Rose, you want to start?
Now, what I think personally is this. Squatters have no rights. I'll repeat that. Squatters have no rights. The mere fact they're squatted is because they have no place to go or to live. But there's a proper way of doing that. If you're squatting and the government says, well, look, we need this piece of land to do agricultural work or whatever it is, and we're going to house you up somewhere else, I think you should take the government's offer. To stay there and to fight and not to want to correct the situation yourself, I think you're creating your own problems. And I'm going to be short on this. If you're a squatter, I will say, okay, fine. No one comes with the land, fine. But if someone comes with the land, you have to give it up. It is not yours. It is not yours. So to fight or to say I'm not moving or what have you is like being a bully.
And having said that, Dr. Rose, I want to bring in Mike Singh. I know he has a lot of thoughts of this. But what the young lady said on the tape is a couple of things. One, she started squatting there in January of this year. So that's very recent. She also said that it was legal. It couldn't be legal. The Ministry of Housing will not give a squatter a legal right to stay on a land. As Dr. Rhodes says, I think one of the problems we have in Guyana, not only now, but even in the past, for those, Mike Singh, you will know this, maybe Rony and Judith might not quite understand the Guyana layout, is that in Guyana, between the Atlantic coast and about a few miles in is what is called the Hilly Sand and Clay Belt. The clay belt in that is the most productive land for the soil type being clay. Now, if we use those soil type for production or for housing or for factory, we are actually robbing the productive side of it. So I think any government, and we're not blaming any government here, I think to allocate places of living and put aside places of production, our new Minister of Agriculture is saying now he will go into zoning. So we will know which area is for whatever particular crop. Mr. Singh, what do you see happening in Guyana with the current situation with these Guyanese who are living in lands that, as Dr. Rose said, it's illegal and they don't have a right to be in those lands?
Thank you, Charles. First and foremost, let me make it lucidly clear that I do not support, endorse, or give succor in any way, shape, or form to any form of illegal land occupation, squatting, or land grab, because there must be the rule of law. I believe in private ownership of property. So if I own my land, if I have title to it, if it's freehold, I will want to protect it with the last drop of my blood. Because I didn't pick it up. I worked hard, I purchased it, I own it. However, the squatters, I know the government of Guyana made several offers at multiple levels of the Ministry of Housing, the Central Housing and Planning Authority. As recent as a day ago, the Prime Minister, Mark Phillips, and the CDC were out there trying to get these people to move. However, it seems they're hell-bent. They don't want to move for whatever reason. If they're being used as political pawns by any political party, be it the APNU, the PMC, or the AFC, that is wrong. That is taking advantage of someone else's plight, poverty, and hour of weakness for political fodder, and that is not humane. However, the flooding of the land, I have a deep issue with that. Flooding of the land to force out these people with children and elderly persons and what have you, compounded by the fact that only last week pellets, guns, batons, tear gas were used against these people. It is abominable, it is unconscionable, it is unacceptable, and will be seen as an assault on human rights. I do not care. You can have 1 trillion barrels of oil. You can have 1 trillion cubic feet of gas. There is no moral imperative, sir, to treat a fellow human being in such a defiling, vile, and sadistic manner. There are 3 leaders that come to mind when you look at history. Pol Pot, who butchered his people. Robert Mugabe, whose method of operation is similar to the flooding, who bulldozed the homes of people who never voted for him in the middle of the night, or you can follow the path of Mahatma Gandhi, who influenced Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and countless others in the struggle for human dignity and freedom. I think President Ali is a good-hearted individual. I think he means well, but I have deep suspicions that some of the people around him are ill-advised and are absolutely off the wonkers to think that you're going to use flooding as an effective mechanism to punish people. And you know, Charles, some of those people are Venezuelan migrants, displaced Venezuelans, and under the Geneva Convention on the Treatment of Refugees, to which Guyana is a signatory but has not ratified the 1967 protocol, Guyana could be putting itself in a very dark place. The United States has a resolution before the OAS later this month to bring all the allies together against Maduro for effective and democratic change. Maduro could say, don't tell me about Guyana's vote when they're using flooding to drive Venezuelan displaced migrants who are squatting on some state reserve. We need to always remember Guyana has a case before the International Court of Justice against Venezuela. And when the world sees images of hapless, defenseless, socially vulnerable people being flooded like they're participating in Waterworld Part 2, public opinion for Guyana will not be good.
Okay, Mr. Singh, can I butt in here and say this?
Sure.
Do you think it's fair to compare what's happening in Guyana to what Pol Pot did and what Mugabe did?
No, I'm not saying. I said there are three kinds of leaders you can follow.
I know, right.
You can become Pol Pot, you could become Mugabe, or you could learn from Mahatma Gandhi. I'm saying there are three roads. I'm just saying the images of people being flooded out. Look at how sad that woman was, near tears. I'm not defending their squatting. I think there needs to be a more holistic approach. There need to be more NGOs involved, such as the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, the International Office of Migration, the UN Population Agency. Human rights is a universal issue. And if Guyana thinks because it's an oil and gas nation, it's above the UN Human Rights Council, that is sad.
Okay, Mike. Yeah, okay, Dr. Rose. I want to bring in Judith here a minute. Judith, you're in Trinidad.
Yes.
Did Trinidad ever had a problem of Trinidadian occupying lands that belong to the state? And if they had that, what did the state do at that time?
Yes, we had that problem, sir. And what happened? Those who were there for X amount of years, the state put a figure on it. If you were there for at least 10 years, they regularized those people. But what I wanted to mention, a similar situation of what was shown there with that young lady, took place in St. Vincent about 15 years ago, where in the rural areas of St. Vincent, again, mothers, single mothers, head of households, could not afford. And what happened under the Millennium Development Goals, there was a fund available through the Canadian High Commission. And what they did, as Mike just mentioned about getting NGOs involved, NGOs got involved, received money, and dispersed it to the women in the area, so they got employment. They literally worked in terms of who opened a bakery, a babysitting service, and so on. And so the community right there got prosperous. And then as they were able to earn an income, they could have rented or went to get a mortgage, as the case may be. Because what you're seeing here is squatting because they cannot afford anything better. But if they become self-employed, if they can earn an income, then they would be able to take themselves out of this situation. Of course, in the interim, the government will have to set up some sort of system where they can help them over the period while they get themselves organized.
Okay, well said. I know, Rony, I want to bring you in here because have you ever been to Ghana before, Rony?
I haven't been to Ghana, and it's my dream city, my dream country to, Mike have been invited me, and hopefully this year or next year,
Okay.
I will make my visit there. But I want to emphasize and key element has Globespan for Charity focus on infrastructure. This is a problem that's creating by environmental justice. And when we look at those kind of areas, we look at the safety and healthy. And government has a responsibility to provide safety and healthy area where people can build. And most of countries where Globespan engage, what we have seen, those communities are not following the proper procedures to build, because to follow Mark and Judith statement, they don't have the resource to build, and they don't have land to build. As we know, in certain communities, I have read Guyana has land. They have more land than population occupancies. So I think government has a responsibility to creating opportunity for economic improvement so the people can better their lives. And in most countries where I visited, and to provide our services, we know that the government can only create 20% of jobs, 20% of jobs. And most of those countries, female are the backbone of the society. I think by providing resources and small business development assistance program to help female on those regions will help them to be able to afford better constructions, better housing, and also providing better infrastructure for development empowerment.
And thanks, Rony. And what Mike made a good point there about, and I'm glad Dr. Rose brought this up, that we can't compare Guyana to Mugabe, definitely. But as Judith mentioned in Trinidad, those who are staying in the lands that was not illegal, but legal, the government, after spending X amount of years, they got title to the land. The same thing happened in Guyana, Judy. For past experiences, for those who are in the land for many, many, many years, the government did regularize it. Not now, but in prior government, and the people got title to their land. The thing is, and that's a problem we keep having all the time, because as I mentioned at the beginning of this program, we go and we occupy state lands illegally because we know sometime in the future they will regularize it and I'll get title to the land. So we're encouraging it. And as Mike know, in Guyana as well, we live along this narrow strip of land on the coast, from all the way from Berbice in Crabwood Creek, where Suriname is, all the way down to the other side of Essequibo, and we live along the strip. What I think this government, and in fairness to this government, they only took office 3 months now. When they were in office prior to this administration, they gave out about 50,000 house lots, legal house lots, and people went to the bank, they got loans, and they built their houses, and they were springing up all over the place. That was a good thing to do. But we got to take away sentiment, Mr. Singh, from what is happening there. Yes, companies now, and Guy Suko is in that framework right now, organizations have social responsibilities as well. And companies, and with social media now, if anything goes wrong and it's spread like wildfire, whether it's true or not, companies can suffer, their marketing policy can suffer and so on. And they got to be mindful of that. That is true. But that does not give those people the right to be there. The government, as of today, they have opened up a school that, because the students can't go to school now, they have opened up a school for those people to go and stay. And still they're refusing to go. So what do we do, Mr. Singh?
Well, I'm now hearing this for the first time, Charles. These people are obstinate, and they really need to be taught. Maybe we need to get some faith-based groups out there, some members of the Christian clergy, members of the Islamic movement, a few pundits, members of the Baha'i, whatever faith-based groups you could get out there to speak with these people, because traditionally people listen to those who are servants of the Lord and who come and bring a message of peace and hope. I believe if the government could identify one area, I don't know how many families there are, so we need to identify how many families there are. Once you've identified the number, identify a common place where you can move all of these people and give them all house lots in that defined community. Between myself and Rony Delgarde, we have the resources with the government giving the people the land to step in and build comfortable, decent housing for each of those families. In fact, I have a commitment of building materials from one of the largest hardware purveyors in the Caribbean. I have a commitment from one of the largest manufacturers of cement. And Rony is committed to shipping in containers of paints. This year we gave over 400 gallons to St. Rose's to repaint the new school when it's built. So myself, Mr. Delgarde, and like-minded members of the private sector, and Judith, who can start a program in the new area where these families will be relocated, we are happy as members of the private sector and NGOs to jump in and help the government lift these people out of abject poverty and give them the hope of a better tomorrow. But we don't have the gravitas and the wherewithal or the locus standi to designate lands. That is the function of the government. I will recommend you have some faith-based entities, and one such person that comes to mind is Father Compton Mirabox, who is a respected Catholic priest who's done a lot of work with rural folks, to be involved in sitting down with these people and the government in an atmosphere that is not charged, that is respectful, that is polite. And at no point should anyone seek to denigrate these squatters or strip them of their dignity and self-respect. They must be seen as partners in a journey towards a better Guyana.
I agree with you on that, Mr. Singh. Let me just lay the foundation, and I'll come back to just what you just said there. Now, that land belongs to Guyana, the sugar company.
Yes.
And they wanted that land to start procuring it in order to plant sugar cane. So it's not a squatting land where the government don't need the land. They need a piece of land. That's part of the process up there. The government offered them everything else, I think. Gaisuku offered them land elsewhere on Gaisuku land site, and they said they're not moving. They offered them to pay for the removal of their little house or shacks or whatever you call them. They refused to go. They were flooding other areas in order to prepare the area, and that is part of it. But Mr. Singh, if what you're saying tonight, I hear you clearly, that you are willing to help these people build homes, you and Mr.
Rodney,
Delgarde,
and Judith, help these people build homes in Guyana, I can channel that through to the government. And I can tell you they will get land, and maybe they'll need your assistance as well. Because as Charles said, they were given a school to stay until the government find adequate space for them. Gaisuku has more land up there that are not big, is not farmland, it's just what you call open savannas or open forest. And he's offering to give them that, and they refuse to budge from where they are.
And where are these lands located?
Mike, I think Judith wanted to say something. Judith?
Sure.
Yes, thank you. Along with the list of people to intervene that Mr. Mike mentioned, I think we should also include counselors who are familiar with mediation, because it is bordering on legal standing. But at the same time, you don't want to take them to court. So if you use mediators, the documentation that is taken by mediators through the mediation process is kept confidential, and it could be used in a court of law if necessary, and you have to go that way to move them. So if we could include counselors familiar with the mediation process, along with the faith-based people, to form a group that will counsel them and speak with them to let them know that this is a way forward and a better life for them.
Well, Rony, before Gaisuku starts flooding the land, and as Dr. Rose said, Mr. Singh, who's the CEO, mentioned that they were having species tested there for future plantation for Gaisuku, and those people went there, and all those, the tests were destroyed. The Gaisuku informed these people way in advance that we're giving you X amount of time. I don't know what time they give them. Please move. A lot of these people moved. Some stayed because, as Mike said, whether they are advised by a political party, and we know Guyana is divided, for those of you who know Guyana, Guyana is very divided along racial lines. The African Guyanese more or less support the PNC, the Indian Guyanese support the PPP. I'm told a lot of the people moved from the squatting areas, but some determined to stay because they were advised that they must stay. Stand your ground. So what do you do then?
Let me just say this. 17 species of sugarcane were destroyed, amounting to $2 billion. That's what Gaisuku has to cope with today. But if I'm to say this, I'm always on the side of the poor and the needy. But I know for a fact they were offered alternatives, and they refused. So in my own thinking, or my own frame of mind, what do they want? That's a land to plant sugarcane. They're preparing all the lands around there. That's the only piece that not been prepared as yet. What do these people want? If it was just open pasture, fine. But this is a savanna to plant cane, a cane field.
Well, Dr. West and Max Singh and Judith, I totally agree with your point where Mark mentioned the social enterprise, the social entrepreneurs has a big responsibility to work with the government to identify the leaders to represent those communities, those rebellions, the people who resisted to change, who don't want to move. I think there is a lack of education to educate the people, the benefits and the safety of living in a community that's not conducive to the safety requirement of the government. And I want to go further. And these people, I agree with Dr. Ross, they don't know any better situation. They don't know any other alternatives that will empower them and inspire them to move. I think that's where the government needs to intervene with better program, with better infrastructure plans. And that's where Global Paint will be a good fit, because what we do, we look at communities like this. We look at the the safety of the people, how we can build better housing, better program from schools, from sports, even from sport facilities to motivate the youth, to inspire them to better themselves. And in partnership with Global Paint, I think last year, 2 years ago, we met with the former First Lady, Mrs. Ganja, where we offered over 20,000 gallons of paint to provide colors to communities in need. And we will continue to partner with Maxine to provide more paint to help communities. And by inspiring, don't remember, paint has a very unique impact in people's life. When people look at other communities of beautiful colors, bright colors, that inspires them to move on, to leave the community that's not painted, and to move into communities that is better, that's beautiful, and that inspires them. So that's one tool we can use. But other tool we can use is to creating opportunity for startups, to incubators, where
Yeah,
we
we
are
want,
trying.
Ronnie, we want to come to that when we come back. We'll take a short break. When we come back, I want to join with that, what Judith said, and talk about employment opportunities and other employment practices that we can implement into this process. So we'll be back shortly.
Travelspan is pleased to announce that the airport in Guyana is now open. There are flights from New York and Miami non-stop to Guyana. Call Travelspan for all your travel needs to Guyana or for your vacation to Mexico or Punta Cana. Call 718-845-0437. That's 718-845-0437. Flights are now on sale to Guyana and vacation packages are now on sale to Mexico and Punta Cana. Call 718-845-0437. Logistics International, based in Trinidad with representatives in Guyana, is pleased to announce its shipping services from Trinidad to Guyana. Logistics provides shipping services and has experienced personnel to handle all of your shipping needs from Trinidad to Guyana. Buy in Trinidad and let Logistics handle all of your shipping to Guyana, from small boxes to container sizes. Call Logistics in Trinidad at 1-868-336-8218 to handle all of your shipping needs, and they handle all sizes. Logistics International has been shipping for over 22 years to many Caribbean countries with reliability and dependability. Call 1-868-336-8218 in Trinidad. That's 1-868-336-8218. Or email at liclcargo@gmail.com.
Guys,
Sure.
welcome back. Welcome back to our show tonight. We are dealing with our squatters. Were they treated unjustly? And we have with us to help us along Dr. Rose, of course, Mike Singh, Rony, and Judith is somewhere. We're not seeing her in the picture, but I'm sure she is on the program with us. Ladies and gentlemen, when we went off the last program, and I want to again inform our viewers that Globespan is bringing this program to you free of charge, and we're asking you to please assist the Globespan with your contribution, whatever that contribution is. I know sometimes in the program itself, some people would contribute funds to the program. If you can make it a monthly contribution, that would be really appreciated. When you book your flights to Guyana, Mr. Singh and Rony and everybody else, use Globespan, Travelspan, and they will get a commission. And that commission, some of it goes a long way to help with this program. All of our services are free. None of us is being paid here, whether we are moderator or a panelist. We are not being paid, but there's expenses to run this program. So I'm asking you to please play your part in the program. When I'm not seeing Judy, I know Judy is here. Gentlemen and lady, let us talk about the opportunities that Rony was talking about when we left. Let me tell you, Rony, and Mike and Dr. Rose will know this in Guyana, and Judy is back on now.
Yes,
In
thank
Guyana,
you.
in Guyana, we had what is called Booker's Sugar Estate. Booker's was, of course, the British. What Booker's did was that wherever there was an estate, whether it's at Wales, whether it's Verteuil, whether it's Leonora, it's IFLAT, it's LBI, wherever it was, they build near to that estate a housing scheme. So the workers are living right not too far away from it. Banks DIH, they offer shares to all their employees. So all the employees are shareholders. Demerara Distillers Limited is doing the same thing. All their employees, they're encouraging to have shares in the company. The government of Guyana have a dilemma right now. Do we give out house lots? After giving out house lots, you'll have to put down pipes for water, you have to make roads, you have to do drainage, you have to do all these things that goes with it. The squatting area don't have that. So immediately they're living in a really, really poor sanitary condition. So what the government plan is to do is to open up the interior of Guyana, the inlands of Guyana. And as those lands are opening up for whatever it is, agriculture, for mining, for whatever it is, we can now build housing areas in those areas so people who are employed there will have their housing, near to their employment. What is wrong with that plan?
That's a good plan because most of Guyana's coast is going to be below the climate change. The Atlantic is going to one day rush in. I think you really need to move the capital. And no government seems to be looking at that. The late Forbes Burnham once said, relocate the place to Matthews Ridge. I've always felt the tongue of Linden is a good way inland. It's high up. It's got great weather, great soil, but climate change is happening. And Guyana, most of Guyana's coast, if not all, lies below the level of the sea. So I think with the fact the country be getting lots of cash from the oil and gas, they need to be making hay while the sun shines and start moving inland, building resilient infrastructure. Every so often, you see what the tides are doing to the coast of Guyana, in Danzig, Maikoni. Over the last few months, we've seen a lot of sea breaches. Once fertile agricultural lands, Charles, are now inundated and completely awash with salt water, thus rendering them unproductive. So I think moving inland with the construction of roads, and what I think if you had roads and a way of getting from point A to point B, most people would just get the hell out of Georgetown and head somewhere higher up and cooler. I mean, Georgetown is just like one big concrete jungle. Everywhere there is concrete. Very few green spaces left compared to when I was growing up. This is a country.
What I want to say is this. On the other hand, whilst looking at the squatters, Guyana is 83,000 square miles. I think it's 81 point something thousand square miles, which is 10 times larger than the Caribbean islands. They have more than enough land to give to the people. As my friend Charles said, move them to the interior. But people are creatures of habit. They will prefer to live on the coastal belt, go and work in the interior, spend 2 or 3 months, and come back home, as is normally the case. People don't want to move from the coastal region of Guyana. It's been a habitual practice. They must live there. The Amerindians live in the interior. They were born and grew up there. But not most Afro-Indo-Guyanese. They will go and work in the interior as, mining gold and all sorts of stuff. They go there, spend 2 or 3 months, come back home. But they will not move the families there, or the families don't want to be moved either. So to say that people should move to those regions I think it's easier said than done. There got to be lots of incentives, lots and lots of incentives for people to even pick up and move
But
from
Dr.
one place to
Rose,
the next.
Dr. Rose, the problem there, and I want to bring in Judy here, the problem there is that there's no infrastructure in the mining area. So
Right.
the guys leave their family at home, and that is understandable. But if we set up, let's say, a dairy farm, Judith, we go at the Rupnoni savannas in Guyana, we set up a huge, complex cattle rearing farm. In that area, we build all infrastructure required for a good living. People will go. Look at the sawmill industry. What the sawmill industry does, to Sipasad and other areas, they build schemes, housing area within the sawmilling area, within the forest area, and people move their entire family there. So it's not something new, Dr. Rose. It's happening all the time, and people are willing. Once there's employment, there's meaningful employment. People can take care of their family. They can live a comfortable life. People will go. So again, but it takes time. The government, everything can't happen overnight. It takes time to do it.
But Charles, you're saying the same thing I'm saying. Let me just say this. The government opened up Blackbush pulled the scheme. People went there to live in flocks, large numbers, because they were rice farmers. What I'm saying to you, if the interior is not opened up with proper jobs for the people, they're not going to go.
That's a fair
jobs.
point. Yeah.
Well,
They need jobs. That was my point.
Okay.
Well, we need to identify those jobs. One of the things Global Paint has been doing, I'm a certified with smart cities. Smart cities is the most elevated cities that will generate in the 21st century. And we select cities like New York, like Atlanta, like San Francisco, Los Angeles, even Paris. And they have to meet the requirement of the 21st century environmental regulations. So it's not about moving people from one place to another place and here and there, but it's to provide opportunities and jobs that will create and sustain these people and the communities where they live for the next 2050. We even think about 2050. So the government has to create an opportunity for these people. We're looking at tech, which is such a huge, will have a huge impact on the people, and that will help them promoting the cities as they meet the requirement of smart city regulations. Not only that, I certify with Green Bill, a green bill that provide all the materials, building materials to build an apartment complex, a community program where those houses or apartments meet the requirements of Green Bill,
Agreed.
certification.
Agreed.
And that promoting your cities to all other cities that are part of the smart city revolutions. So with Mark, this is something we can implement in Guyana.
Great. That's very good news.
And let me add, Dr. Rose, I did mention it, but I'm a member of the Global Advisory Board of the Smart Cities Council based in Washington, D.C. And I had been to the White House during Obama's term because President Obama actually had a policy person responsible for Smart Cities Initiative.
Okay.
So, and I am the only person from Latin America and the Caribbean on the Smart Cities Council's Global Advisory Board. It's funny, I came from a poor country, but I'm very much, as Rony will tell you, at the heart and center of a lot of things that are technologically driven, because I grew up without a phone, and I don't intend to ever be left behind again, never again.
Can you explain the concept of smart city, what it means?
Well, smart city, as defined by the IDB, did this project, which included initiative where the IDB gave funds towards building up the community. They looked at communities in the Port of Spain area, but on the outskirts of it, that needed building up, that needed repairs to the pavement, the sidewalk, minor repairs to homes, things like that. Looking at how many homes had indoor plumbing versus outside toilets, things like that, access to water and electricity. So they were saying that to have a smart city, if you are living in the outskirts of the city, but you are not gainfully employed, you are not part of what's happening in the city, then it's not a smart city. And so Trinidad and Tobago didn't capitalize on that as much as we ought to, but that's a separate conversation. In terms of the Guyana and the jobs, we have to remember there's psychological effect when we are dealing with people in dire straits like this. You have to get buy-in from them. So although you might want to allocate an area that needs infrastructure, need electricity, roads, water, and so on, it's good to get the people involved. Let them help clear the land. Let them get their hands dirty. Let them know that, look, this is something that I'm doing for myself and my family, so that you will get buy-in from them to get them to move. You see? And inadvertently, you will then be employing them instead of taking people from outside of the area to do this manual work in that area. You use the very people who are supposed to be relocated there to do it.
Well said. Well said.
Excellent.
I agree with that.
Yeah, excellent point. Yeah.
Well said, Judith.
Thank you.
Now, the other question I want to raise is this, and it's a simple one. In this case, when it comes to smart cities, Guyana needs a lot of smart cities.
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't have land, they don't have homes. So the building project will have to start from outside of the capital cities. We have two main capitals, and others are subsidiary. We have, Savannah and Georgia, two main capitals, but we have Linden and a number of other capitals. But Georgetown of itself, I think the model you're all speaking about there, smart cities, is applicable to Georgetown, but outside of Georgetown of itself.
Well, Dr. Rose, cities of the 21st century that will thrive and do well are those that have very little in terms of environmental impact, limit the carbon footprint. Any new development, even the ones we are going to do for these displaced persons in the success squatting encampment, you need to have those homes built with fiber in them, because the new highway is not thriving on 995, it's being able to harness bandwidth. Countries, societies, and communities that do not have access to cheap and reliable bandwidth are going to be left behind. COVID-19 has completely re-engineered the world. It's never going to be the same. Classrooms, physical classrooms are going to be things of the past. Everything is moving towards the ethereal world. Everything is being done online. Today, I have at my disposal 1 gigabit per second. My network on which I'm running this, 1 gigabit per second for one person. My wife has the same. And to me, that is slow. I need to get to 10 gigabits per second. In Guyana, you could not get a decent 50 megabits. And
I think they have improved it now. I think GTT has improved.
They have realized the
system. But let me tell you, that is not a single point connection to homes. That's multi-point. So you're sharing 50 meg, but you got fiber to the home, but the throughput is not there. The next thing, you hear some people in Guyana banging around, they've built a 5G network. Now I can tell you that is a farce. 5G is a completely different animal. It requires different spectrum, different engineering. It works on MIMO. and nanocells. I'm on the ITU's standards body. I am to telecoms and ICT and innovation, Dr. Rose, what Nohar Singh will be to the travel industry. And I can tell you, digital constipation is a sad thing for people in Guyana. Even the school children who have to do their classes online. I made a call to the assistant for the Minister of Education to address this issue a month ago. I'm yet to hear back. And I just read on Globespan or Guyana Forum, a child in a place in Region 1 said the school can't follow the curriculum because they have no bandwidth. So you're going to have a whole digital underclass of people, and we need to fix this problem now, because children are not going into the classroom. You're going to have some people who have access to bandwidth and those that are socially deprived. And because of geography, they are deep down in the jungles and they don't have access to the bandwidth. You know, in India,
I agree with you.
Dr. Rose, in India, we developed a laptop for a tablet for less than $10 American for every school child.
Right.
In India. And
yeah,
I was calling the minister's assistant to speak with the minister to get a donation of a few thousands of these tablets into the hands of the Guyanese school children. But no one calls me back. So, you know, God helps those that help themselves.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we want to continue with this and the discussion. I think is a really nice, lovely discussion. And I want you guys to think of what you can recommend to the government. And I know Rony and Mike, you have this not-for-profit organization or whatever you're doing to help not only those who we consider squatters, and I believe squatters is a very derogatory term. I don't think they should be called squatters. You know, they're occupying lands or whatever that they don't own, whatever term we want to use. But let us come back and talk about some help that we can offer to our people. So we'll be back shortly.
Logistics International, based in Trinidad, with representatives in Guyana, is pleased to announce its shipping services from Trinidad to Guyana. Logistics provides shipping services and has experienced personnel to handle all of your shipping needs from Trinidad to Guyana. Buy in Trinidad and let Logistics handle all of your shipping to Guyana, from small boxes to container sizes. Call Logistics in Trinidad at 1-868-336-8218 to handle all of your shipping needs, and they handle all sizes. Logistics International has been shipping for over 22 years to many Caribbean countries with reliability and dependability. Call 1-868-336-8218 in Trinidad. That's 1-868-336-8218. Or email at liclcargo@gmail.com. Globespan 24. Cannot travel due to COVID? Then treat yourself or your loved one with a gift. Purchase it online, then let TravelSpan Shop and Ship take care of the rest. TravelSpan is now offering a shop and ship program to Guyana and Trinidad. cheap rates plus tracking, and multiple offices in Georgetown, West Coast Demerara, and Berbice to take care of your package. Treat yourself and ship your Christmas gifts early this year. In Guyana, 227-1701, and in New York, call 347-238-2201. That's 227-1701. And in New York, 347-238-2201. Let Travelspan and Globespan take care of your online shopping and shipping.
Sure.
All right, welcome back to our viewers, to our panelists. Again, we want to thank you for staying with us, and I want to encourage you, please contribute to Globespan 24x7 so we can continue to carry this program and all the other programs that Globespan is doing. Whatever your contribution is, $5, $10, $20, you can do that monthly, that would be great. And also, I ask you to book your flights through Travelspan so they can get a commission on your ticket. And the price is still the same, whether you book it online or you book it through them, the price is still the same. So please assist them so they can help this program.
Okay,
ladies and gentlemen.
Let me just ask Mr. Singh this question, and Rony and Judith.
Yes.
Time and time again, refugee situations came up in Guyana. Were you all there, or you all were aware of it, and you all did offer assistance?
Well, I've only been operating my foundation in Guyana for the last 5 years, or a little bit more, 7 years.
Okay.
But I don't know of any refugee situation. I was in Afghanistan. I know of refugee situations there. I went to a UN refugee camp in Ethiopia last year.
I used the wrong word, not refugees, squatters.
No, I mean,
okay.
It seems that squatting has been a national phenomenon or a pastime in the country, except now it's being given more visibility. But
that is true.
You know.
But ladies and gentlemen,
Guyana. Question.
Yeah, Judith, go on. Yeah.
To answer the question, I'm familiar with the situation with minors and the perilous journeys in terms of selling their gold and not getting the fair price when they sell it to the government and trying to sell it otherwise and running into nefarious fear. That is something we have to, I think, should be also dealt with.
But Judy, I think the government gives the miners whatever the world market price is for the gold. But what a lot of miners do, if you do that, you have to pay royalty and, of course, pay tax on it. So they prefer not to sell it to the government. So they avoid paying taxes. They avoid declaring their income. So it's not a very simple thing, as you just said there, but it's a lot more complex than that. But what I want to talk about is this. Guyana, I'm glad you mentioned gold. But Guyana have gold. We have diamond. We have bauxite. We have timber that is en masse around the world. We have sugar, we have rice, we have fishing, we have, you name it, Guyana has it.
Yes, and oil.
And now we have oil. What we have had over the years, Guyana, we got our independence just over 50 years ago. We have been perpetually robbed by mismanagement, whichever government was in. We know in the PNC days, there was evidence of rigged election from 68 to 85. Then the PP came on board, and in the perception of a lot of the African Guyanese, they think the PPP was an Indian government, and they marginalized African Guyanese. Whether that perception is true or not, I'm not going to, put aside here or there. But look at Gaisuko. Our friend Singh is now tasked with the responsibility of bring back that organization. That organization under Bookers made profits year after year after year. As a matter of fact, the PNC government, they got a whole lot of money from Bookers, right? That paid into the treasury. It continued under the PP government. So Bookers was making a lot of money. Gaisuko, when it took over, was making money, but mismanagement, and it is a whole lot of different problems with Gaisuko. So we have a problem in Guyana with management. Now, we are asking the government to put this housing problem in perspective. and to solve it overnight. But it cannot happen. There is a process we have to go through. It takes time. Judy, as a mother, what do you recommend to the government that we do? Judy, you're with us? I think we lost Judy.
Judith?
Yeah, I think Judith, you're hearing us? Your mic, I think your mic is frozen. She's not hearing us.
I think, Rony, let's go to you. What should the government, as a father, what should the government do?
Not a father yet. not that I don't try to be a father, but
you're robbing a young lady of the joy of being a mother.
I've not been blessed yet. But you know, there are different steps the government can do. But let's go back to infrastructure, and it is important that the government looking at the long-term goals. What do they have and planned? When you have Maxine who have experience in green bill, where we use green bill technology to create building materials to build infrastructure that will remain for a very long time. We're talking about bridges, and we talk about public facilities and buildings, offices. I mean, recently we received a letter from a city municipality that want the government building to be painted in Guyana and Georgetown. And one of the sentences of the letter mentioned that the building has not been repainted for over 25 years. And now they have a new government, and one of the important decisions they have to drastically impact it is to paint that building. And they reach out to Global Paint for a solution to paint that building. So this is something that can be fixed. This is a quick fix. Just but painting the building is not the solution. How about inviting people with experience like Maxine, who dealing with a lot of high powerful people in the government in other countries, not just in the United States, but in Dubai, and UK, and Canada, and even in some the countries in Africa like Ghana, we very having starting to having such a very impactful impact in Africa, and inviting these people who are so resourceful with information to give advice to the government how they can build for the next generation.
Okay. Mike, what are your views?
Well, Charles, you know, I'm a patriot. I'm always happy to lend my expertise without fear or favor to the land that gave birth to me. But I like to say, I don't only belong to Guyana, I belong to humanity. I'm a globalist. Guyana is where I was born, but it's where I got my first breath of air, my first drink of water, where I got my formative schooling, I got my values. So I do have a great interest and emotional connection to the country. And I would like to see the country progress. I would like to see people lift themselves out of poverty. I would like to see Guyana become this place that Dr. Martin Luther King spoke of at the mall. And I have a dream that one day, you know, Black boys and white girls will play. I have a dream that one day Indians, Africans, Portuguese, and all Guyanese will let the shackles of racism and mental bondage of hatred and intolerance behind, because, you know, Charles, and Ronnie knows, I had a very great relationship, I like to think, with the late John Lewis. When I heard of Dr. Lewis's death, it brought tears not to my eyes, but to my heart. In fact, the first time I met him at the Atlanta airport, I hugged him up and I started crying. My wife had to pull me away and say, let the poor man get his flight to get to Congress. Because as a minority in this country, it's because of people like John Lewis who took blows at Selma on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, that persons of my color could have even been afforded the opportunity of owning a home, getting a job at AT&T, and advancing. But John Lewis said, it's always good to get into good trouble. And so I challenge all the leaders of Guyana, let the past be the past. We cannot fix the past, but we can define the future. And Mahatma Gandhi, who was in South Africa, who influenced so many great people, he said the greatest form of violence was poverty. And Dr. Rose talked about human capital and people. I think a good example of meritocracy is Singapore. I had the great honor of meeting Lee Kuan Yew several times and benefiting from him. And when I mentioned the first time I met him, I was from the Caribbean. First thing he asked me, are they still liming? He asked if they were still liming. And he said, you know, the Caribbean was a place for political comedians. Our single most important asset, Charles and Dr. Rose and my esteemed colleagues and the viewers, our human capital. If you don't nurture your people and train them and empower them so they could stand in their own 2 feet, then all this oil and gas money is going to slip right by. Look at the United Arab Emirates. I always use Abu Dhabi as the best example because I was part of the team that worked on the Abu Dhabi Vision 2030. And when I look at how that country, the UAE, evolved, do you know, Charles, the first hospital in Abu Dhabi was built in 1973. The UAE could be the model for Guyana, but we need servant leadership. Politicians should not seek public office to serve their interests. Seek office to serve the people. And in fact, I challenge any leader in Guyana to become prime minister or president and give up your salary and work for free. Well, that is the best form of human service. But human capital, that, you know, resources could be, it's a curse. Tomorrow if oil goes out of fashion, we put all of our eggs in one basket, we're going to suffer from Kira or white mouth. So we need to invest in people, infrastructure, and food security. The next global conflict is not about oil, it's about fresh water. And if you look at Israel, so much I have seen in Israel that Guyana can learn from. Guyana has so much going for it. Guyanese should get out and go around the world and see how lucky they are. They have a lot of time on their hand to waste, and they need to get with the program. And I encourage the government of Guyana, send your leaders and future leaders to the Lee Kuan Yew Institute of Public Policy, and they will come back being wiser and smarter. Technology.
Repeat it again. Send them where?
To the Lee Kuan Yew Institute of Public Policy at the National Singapore University. Lee Kuan Yew took Singapore from a third world to a first world nation in under 40 years. I saw that myself.
But Mike, their culture work was different from our culture, and that's the problem. So the thing is, with what you just said, there is a lot of knowledge in what you just said. but there got to be a symbiotic relationship between the government and the people. Everybody got to benefit from whatever is happening. So, having said that, what will you say now to those who are doing the illegal things like occupying land that they're supposed to do, or robbing the government of revenue, they're not paying their taxes, and so many things is going wrong. What is your advice to them?
We need to bring people in line. We need to have the rule of law, good governance, accountability, transparency.
Mike, let me stop you if you don't mind. Mike, sorry, I'm stopping you. But that is exactly what the government is doing to bring the rule of law, and then we are complaining that the government is using a big stick method. So what do the government do?
The government has to readjust their approach. If they're not getting the desired goals, outcome, they need to readjust their approach. Bring in faith-based initiative. Bring in honest brokers like myself, Judith, and Rony. We don't have any.
Yes, evening again. Sorry about that.
Sorry, Judith.
We have no political agenda. We are not with the PNC. We are not with the PPP. We are not with the Shouter Baptists, the Jordanites. Our only agendas is helping the government and the displaced persons to find common ground and to move on, because, my friend says Narang Singh took on a gigantic task. I grew up with Sis. We're both from Alexander Village. I knew him.
Wow, that's
growing
good
up.
news.
Yeah, and Professor Terence Blackman, Ramesh Duku, King's Jewelers, these are all village people. Dr. Vindhya Prasad,
Ramraj Agnandan.
Vindhya Prasad's mom is from Alexander Village.
Yes.
So this small place has produced Mohammed Nazar Shells Gold. He is living in the village. The Sarju. We seem to breed a lot of entrepreneurs. But Charles and Dr. Rose, we want to help. My role is not to attack or combat the government, but I would like that they sit down and let civil society be an honest broker in this situation. And we have access to resources. If the government identified they're going to move 20 families to point A, we can have everything there. And as one group has worked on the foundation for the home, the next could be working on the electrical wiring, the next on the painting, like cookie cutter approach, because we don't have the ability to be sending volunteers in 15 different directions to do a job. So it needs to be in a defined geographic space, and we don't want money. We just want the government's goodwill and support.
So Rony, how many countries you have assisted so far since you start your global paint for charity?
So far we have assisted 44 countries. We recently introduced a program called the Basic School Beautification Program. The goal is to renovate and paint 8,000 to 12,000 basic schools in West Africa and 12 countries in West Africa. As you know, most of the countries in West Africa were colonized by French.
Right. North Africa,
colonized by British. It is a totally different culture. Most of the countries we see French were colonized, including my own country, Haiti, and they don't leave enough resources to uplifting the economic opportunity for the people. I visited those countries in Africa, and you see all these young entrepreneurs. They are eager for technology. They have seen that they have smartphones. They see everything that happened on Facebook and Twitter, on Instagram. They can slap a picture of a beautiful classmate at the beach and post it on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and that the world can view it. Immediately 10,000, 20,000 people saw it. They are farmers in their countries. But these are the same people who don't have a home to sleep at night. They
This is
don't
a
have
rather
a bed.
this is a rather selfish question to you. If there's one country that is in need of assistance, is Haiti, your country. How much have you assisted Haiti?
That's a good question. The all countries we visited are on great needs of our product, which is paint. It's such a beautiful product. It is very grateful for us to be the first organization that care about people in such a way to provide the paint. As you yourself, as the people who live on the street, we all, one thing we are fighting is to have a home where we all can sleep and wake up in the morning.
All
And
right.
I will tell you, 80% of most countries we have visited, not just in Haiti, the people don't have a beautiful home where they feel comfortable and proud to live. And that's why we try to enforce and to push forward a program where everybody, not only in Haiti, but they can have a beautiful home to live. For the
All right.
simple, when we go back to Haiti, there's a city called Cité Soleil. Cité Soleil is a city you cannot go there because it's occupied by gangsters, by people who off the street. But believe it or not, in 2000 and 2012, after the earthquake, we select Cité Soleil as a city for economic opportunities for the people. We donated 20,000 gallons of paint to renovate the city. We employ the local people to paint their homes.
All right.
They come,
Ronnie.
the container arrive, they select the paint they need, they beautify their home. 3 years later, people visit the city, they post their pictures on Facebook of their house are painted for the very first time, and people love to see that.
Okay.
Now,
All right, Ronnie. Thank you.
the city become the most touristic city that everybody around the world go to visit and bring economic opportunity for the people. That's what
Ronnie,
global.
I know we are running out of time now. We have spent. I want to thank you so much. I know Judy's on the call. Judy, in closing, you want to say anything quickly?
Yes, I wanted to mention in closing, as we spoke about paint, there's a psychology pertaining to the colors of paint. And sometimes when they're painting schools, they put the inside rooms for the classrooms in colors that affect boys. It's more favorable for girls, like a light pink. And some of the colors they use actually affect the boys mentally in doing their work properly. And so colors like green and colors that are blending with the environment is far better in the classrooms and even for work. So I wanted to mention that there's the psychology of paint.
Thank you very much. And Mike, in closing, 10 seconds.
Well, I appreciate being here. I hope Dr. Rose gets the ball rolling with the powers that be in Guyana, so we can get with these people, help them to get relocated and to build their home. And from that, I have other plans. I like to do things in Guyana, build a local chapter of the Indian Institute of Technology, the Indian Institute of Management. The government gives the land, we don't need money. We will build it, we will furnish it, and it'll be free for any Guyanese who have the academic ability to attend, and those who come from remote areas will have free accommodation and free meals. My goal is to lift people in Guyana out of poverty through education and digital empowerment.
Thank you very much, Mike. Anything in closing, Dr. Rose, quickly?
Well, I just want to say that I'm very happy to know I meet Rony, Mike, and Judith, and I will try my very best to make contact as soon as we get off here, but I will need your all phone numbers, so I'll get after the program closes off, we'll talk about that. But it was pretty nice to meet with you all, pretty good to meet with you all tonight, and it's a learning experience for me. It's a very good experience for me to meet with, such people with this entrepreneurial background in charitable giving.
Thank you so much. And again, we want to thank you, Mike, to Rony, and to Judith for being part of our program tonight. Dr. Rose, of course, to all our viewers, and to Noah,
Thank
Singh,
you
and
so
Devin
Yes.
for bringing this possible. Gentlemen and lady, we will have to continue the discussion sometime in the future. We hope that one program we'll get maybe the housing minister to come on with you guys again, so we can discuss some things together, what you can contribute to Guyana and to the people of Guyana. So again, thank you all so much, and have a great evening. God bless you all, and God bless our country of Guyana. Thank you.